Well, hello, everybody. Welcome. We got QB here. Hello, Crystal. Hello, Gene Hudson. Oh, Gary. There's Gary there. So everybody's starting to stack in. So how's everybody doing?
Well, thank you. Hey, Michelle.
I'm good. We're good.
I just want to make sure you wasn't. Can you hear us?
You can't put her in the naughty corner yet.
Hey, Thomas. Welcome, everybody. So what do we have tonight?
Well, this evening, or lunchtime over here, we're going to teach everyone basic dowsing. And we have a guest on, David Kenneth. And he is very passionate as well as I am with the dowsing. So he'll be great for any questions and things like that.
You want me to go ahead and bring him in?
Yep.
David, welcome. Come on down. Hello
Thank
there,
you so
kind
much.
sir.
Thank you so much, Grizzly, for letting me participate. I'm really excited.
This is Michelle, David.
Hi, David. Nice to meet you.
Likewise. Yeah. This is a fantastic opportunity. I'm absolutely fascinated by the occult. And, one of the things I want to talk about is in connection with that, which hopefully everybody will find quite exciting.
Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely.
We cover quite a lot of subjects here. Grizzy has shows going all week, and then we do the cryptids, we do the paranormal. So you're well seated.
Well, I sent Cath a list of the different applications I use for divining, and I think in view of what you're basically interested in, we might start at 6, which is about trapped spirits from people who've died from murder, suicide, or accidental death.
Excellent. We'll get the gang going. Today, we usually have a card each day. Today, we've got the opossum.
Right.
I think we had that recently. But anyway, the opossum is diversion. Opossum's greatest form of protection is to play dead. In doing this, opossum confuses many a predator into believing that the game is over. Oftentimes, the confused rival walks away or looks the other direction for a moment, and opossum runs to safety. Opossum medicine uses a great deal of strategy. If all else fails, opossum plays dead. It has the ability to fight with its claws and teeth, but it rarely uses this form of protection. Instead, the supreme strategy of diversion is constantly employed when things get a little too hard to handle. Opossum has developed an act that would receive an Academy Award in the animal kingdom. The mask of the death scent is excreted at will, adding to the master play that sends enemies on many trails of confusion. If opossum has turned up in your cards, you're being asked to use strategy in some present situation. Rely upon your instincts for the best way out of a tight corner. If you have to pretend to be apathetic or unafraid, do it. Oftentimes, if you refuse to struggle or show that hurtful words bother you, your taunter will see no further fun in the game. Warriors have used opossum medicine for centuries, playing dead when the enemy nears and outnumbers them. Then in a flash, when the enemy is least expecting it, the war cry is heard. The fright of this serves to further confuse the unsuspecting opposition. Victory is sweet when the strategy is one of mental as well as physical prowess. Opossum may be relaying to you that you are to expect the unexpected and be clever in achieving your victory. This could be a victory over a bothersome salesperson or a nosy neighbor. In essence, opossum is beckoning you to use your brain, your sense of drama and surprise to leap over some barrier to your progress. That's opossum.
Oh, wrong button. There we go. Well, last time we had skunk.
Yeah, this one's very similar, especially in the tactics. Like in the reverse position, opossum may be warning you against getting caught in the high drama of your life's present scenario. Close your eyes, scenario, and dramatize. May keep you from seeing the truth of a situation. You may buy into a melodrama in yourself or others. You might as well play dead if you're justifying what you're doing with a tragic victim routine. If this concept does not apply to your situation, take a look at the possibility that you may have recently been giving excuses for why you don't want to do something instead of telling the truth. In fearing to hurt someone's feelings, you may have trapped yourself in a justification pattern. I'm too sick, I'm too poor, I'm watching my work, I'm too short, blah, blah. In having to defend yourself with excuses, you may have lost the point. You don't have to defend your right to be. The exercise is in learning to politely say that something would not be appropriate for you at this time. That's all. You owe no one an excuse. You can say no. It's okay to say no.
So what you're saying is drama. Drama.
Yeah.
Hi,
Correct.
Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. Okay, you got your pendies ready, everyone?
I got mine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
We got a big storm, so I don't want to get written off before I get started. Okay. So dowsing, and that was first mentioned in the 1500s. Yours is beautiful. You should see Grizzy's, David. In the 1500s, Munster calls the rod used of a gula divina, a divining rod.
Wow.
While his fellow countryman Agricola wrote about mining operations in his De Re Metallica, published in 1540. So it's been referenced for a very, very long time. In dowsing, we want to know how it works. So I won't go into the string theory. I shall give you a quick explanation. The mind behave. You watch out for Dennis if you get on the naughty list.
You want me to mute myself?
This will be interesting because we all have probably different ideas as to how it works.
I know. So this is why I'm going to do this, because I get off in the string theory and we end up everywhere. So I'm just going to read from another person's point of view. The mind operates something like a combination radio or TV receiver and transmitter. A person with a properly trained mind who can concentrate and hold his thought powerfully on a particular object, thought, person, substance, or idea becomes in tune with it. The person touches the thing on its own frequency. Nerve cells begin to vibrate in resonance to it, and this vibration has a frequency, a vibratory rate, and wavelength, which can give it a unique quality, tone, or color. Isidore Friedman, a master pendulum operator, maintains that these frequencies also have a certain shape. The nervous system then translates this quality and causes the appropriate agreed-upon movement in the pendulum. Attention and concentration are the tuning devices of the mind. The transmitting stations are the objects or people themselves, which are continually broadcasting or radiating energy frequencies. The only problems that occur are when there is too much static or interference in either our own heads or the environment. Then the pendulum readings can be a little bit off. Basically, this is what I did years ago, this little drawing. You've got the universe, everything upstairs. You've got the sun, the earth. You've got light energy in the mountains. They're all made out of particles, and they join to create atoms. Then matter, and then the waves, which are the vibrations and the frequencies. A person we all have a nervous system. We contain energy, and we function kind of like a cosmic computer. Our sensitivity then picks up the signal, and the pendulum is a symbol of that reception. That's one way of looking at it. In all the ways you look at it, you're connecting with your inner self, and you're trusting your intuition, and you're bringing it from the subconscious to the conscious, and seeing the action appearing with the use of a pendulum or whatever tool you're using. All the ethics and protection advice applies. You have to respect everybody's privacy. no matter if they're upstairs, downstairs, wherever they are. All ethics apply. Privacy, confidentiality, depending on what you're doing. Like, you wouldn't go down to the supermarket, for example, and openly go to check your pendulum. You would not openly go, am I naked at this moment in time? You know, you have to be careful what you're saying out loud in public if you don't want to get kind of hassled. But always be very, very careful of what you're saying, because the minute your intention is set, that you're on your way. You can use it for all sorts of things: testing food, testing water. Where can I plant something? Is this the best environment to do this? Mapping in cold cases. You can use it for anything. You can test gemstones to see if they're fake. You can use it for healing to see what energy centers are pumping more than another. Balancing energy centers. So what we do first is usually we ground, and that's setting your intention. When you're grounding, you think about your intention of what your question is going to be and protect up. You don't want to pick up on any other energies that are not included in your intention. So you protect up very well. As soon as you set your intention, which is your question, you're fully grounded and you're linking into those vibrations of whatever your target is. So then you set your intention, and then when you set your intention, first we need to, like, I call it calibrating. So you get your yes and your no. I always say you can use anything you like. Anything that you know the answer to is definitely yes or no. So I say, I know mine's off the air as usual. I always ask, am I a four-legged dog anywhere in the universe, to get my no. And hopefully it's a no. But that's what I use, because there's no, like, I'm not a four-legged dog right here and now. So I know that's a definite no. Front ways like this, there's no answer. You usually need to redefine the question so that you can have a definite yes or no. It takes a little while when you first start to dowse. Sometimes it won't come straight away, but don't worry, it will come. It's more a trust of yourself. And once you trust and believe in yourself to the point you have no doubt, then the energy is free-flowing. So you're kind of on your way. There's different pendies you can use depending on the task. This one's a tiny little baby one. That's good for mapping. It's very light, but you can't use that outside. For my outside, I use this Brontosaurus because, it won't. Yes, exactly. Yep. I've got this other baby. Same thing. They're just plumber's bobs. This one is more finer pointed. It's tourmaline. This one, you can undo the top and put something in there so that if you're looking specifically for sapphire, something like that, you can implant to give you a better connection. Then I have the rods, which I'm going to need help with David about some of these. This one I don't know much about, or this one. So, David, I'll need you later on for that one. Hey, everybody. And I have my rods. I don't often use my rods. I know. I don't use them often inside. I prefer to use these out in the field. I can be more comfortable when I'm using them. When you're hanging on to your pendies, it's often advised to hang it over the top of your thumb there, excuse my fingernails. That way you get a good solid hold, and keep your elbows in like you're doing gym work, so that your elbows tied in, so there's no movement. Like when you're doing, is it bench presses? You keep your elbows in, and that keeps it nice and tight within you. And then you have your question after you've grounded and you've protected up. Your question has to be super succinct, so there's no grey areas. Very succinct, like
specific.
Yes, specific. Yeah, sorry, I'm losing it. Because the more the grey area, the harder it is to get your answers. When I'm doing the cases, I'll start off with a basic question that I'll get a yes/no answer for, and then I will go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Chrissy's gone away. And that's how we go, basically. So you set your question. For practicing, it's good to, like, you can practice and say, where's north? And you've got a compass. You can get positive feedback if you're on the right track or not. And when you start finding things, you gain more and more confidence as you go along. And it's more trust in yourself, really. Trust without doubt, so that you're 100% trusting your intuition. And there are no grey areas. So to practice with your north-south, and always remember it'll be different if you're dowsing in the northern or the southern hemisphere. You need to recalibrate, or you need to be specific in when you're setting up your intention. I've been caught out a couple of times when I've been dowsing in the northern hemisphere and I'm sitting here in the southern hemisphere. It shouldn't matter. Depending on what you're doing, it may matter. It has mattered to me a couple of times, and I got false readings. So then I had to reset and go again. I always try and verify what I'm doing. If your pendy's not giving you a clear answer, if it's just go backwards and forwards and that, it may mean, I always say to my pendy first thing, do you feel like dowsing? Like I talk to it. It'll tell me straight off. If it doesn't want me to douse for that day, I may not be in the right frame of mind, or, you're too tired, or it's best just not to do it. Do it later on. It will tell you, do you want to douse with me today? And you should not look at the answers. Don't look at the pendulum. The mind is a strong tool of influence. If you find any illness in anybody, don't tell them straight out. You don't delve into medical without, being super duper careful. If something's going on with a person in their body, it's best to refer on, or say to them, oh, it might be a good idea to go and have a checkup, like your car. You do your car every year, you might want to go and check out your body as well. If you can feel something is not quite right in the person, and you really think they should see a doctor or a healer or whatever, then refer on. But don't say anything like, oh, you're going to cark it, or, something like that, or, because you can really hurt people by what you say. And also, if you're dowsing in a group healing situation, someone might go off. They might have a panic attack. You really have to be careful. I'll get back to you, Rebecca. You have to be really, really careful with the body, and your ethics and principles and morality, and we're dealing with other people's energies. It's personal. So you need to be very careful. As far as dowsing for things like, does he love me? Does she love me? That sort of thing. It's not a good idea. And all the answers are only for this moment in time. So in 5 seconds, I may have a totally different answer. Everything's for only this moment in time. That's why after a case, when I do a case, if I start the case on the Sunday, I'll do the case Monday, Tuesday, then I leave it, and then I come back on the Friday and re-verify just to make sure that I'm still, because the guy, if I'm after trying to find a missing person, that person may have been alive on Monday, may not be alive on Friday. So then I have to verify everything to make sure, you know. What do you reckon, David? Have I missed anything? Confused anyone?
Oh my God, you are just incredible. I just want to keep on interjecting all the time and just get you to expand on certain things and also enter a discussion. Certainly not arguments, just discussions, because we're so much on the same wavelength. It's unbelievable.
Oh, that's good. That's a plus.
Yeah.
Would you like to introduce yourself? And seems I've been so rude and haven't done that as yet. Everybody, this is David.
Okay, my name's David Kennett. I'm in Western Australia. All my life, I've had the most amazing spiritual experiences for which there was absolutely no explanation. And, ultimately, I just felt there was a calling. And I was born in Sydney, but I've lived in England 5 times. And but I seem to get more spiritual experiences here than I do in England. But at the same time, one of them that was really interesting was the last time I was in England, which was quite a long time ago, 1970s, I think, 60s, 70s. Oh, I don't know. And when you get to my age, 82, you lose track of time, don't you? But anyway, I was selling double glazing and I went into this particular house and the lady said to me, while you're doing your calculations, David, I'll make a cup of tea. I've already made some scones. So I said, well, that's very kind of you. But I said, I can't eat your scones because I'm gluten intolerant. And anyway, with that, she said, no, that's ridiculous. Wheat is the lifeblood of people. So anyway, with that, she slipped off a wedding ring and tied a piece of cotton to it and got me to hold it above one of the scones. And with that, it went anti-clockwise. And really and truly, I didn't really know what was happening. And she just said, oh, my goodness, it's saying it's not good for you. So I said, well, I was diagnosed in 1967 at the St. John's Hospital off Leicester Square in London, and with this allergic reaction to wheat and gluten. And so I said, that's the reason why. And so that was a very good introduction to using a pendulum. But up to then, I'd really only thought of using divining rods. And so that was quite a new experience. But I found that with the divining rod, it was a bit frustrating because one of the things I do is I have what I call my circle of elements. And I've listed compass bearings for particular elements. So if I say lead, for argument's sake, it'll point to 2.5 degrees east of north. Now, if I say gold, it'll change direction like this. If I say nitrogen, it goes over to west. So this is really fascinating and useful in a multitude of ways. But my big question is, how is this working? And I think that we are connected to the universe. And the very word divining seems to suggest the word God, which a lot of people are not happy with, but it's just a word to explain something that we don't understand. And I'm certainly quite happy with it. But I teach over in Nepal. I've been there 3 times. I would have been there more times had it not been for COVID, which prevented me from going in 2 years.
Oh, we're not allowed to say that, David.
No, pandemic. You're fine. Just pandemic.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
The pandemic's prevented me from going there. Anyway, one of the things that fascinates me, okay, I'm single, I've never had children, but my sisters have had kids and I've watched lots of people have children and whatever. And what is fascinating is they take the baby home and they put it in a cot in a certain position. And then when they go back into the room, the baby has moved around, even though it's been reasonably well restrained. And I think, why is that crazy? And they always put the child back in the same position. And they go in the original position and they go back again and the child has turned. And so what we should do is move the bassinet or the cot so the child can sleep where it is trying to get to, because intuitively it knows where there is a safe place. And I've gone into homes where people say, oh, we never sleep well. And I go into their bedrooms and I say, well, your head needs to be here and your feet needs to be there. And I remember on one occasion, I went into 3 bedrooms in this particular house, and they had 3 boys that were all out playing sport that particular day. And anyway, we went up into the first bed. So I said, this child needs to have his head here and his feet there. And the wife just said to me, God, that's amazing. She said, that's exactly how tall he is. And I'd never seen this child. And it was the same for every child. And the next day, the wife phoned up and she said, David, we've got to thank you. She said, we've all slept like we've never slept before in this house. And but another thing that really fascinates me is the way we can connect with all manner of different things. And here in Australia, we have geckos, and I suppose there's geckos in other countries. I don't know. And anyway, one day I was down on the floodplain on my property because I'm doing forestry research, and I was with 2 adults who had a farm tree nursery. And they suggested I grew a particular melaleuca that was endemic to the region. And so I'd bumped into either the husband or wife, I can't remember, in the local town. And I said, look, you've got to come and have a look at these melaleuca hamulosa, because I'm just so pleased with them. So they came up, and there's this 3 adults, and we're standing around, and this little gecko comes out of its hole. So I bend down and I put my hand on the ground and I say, hello, little gecko. I said, if you and God are really happy with the work I'm doing for the environment, come and give me a kiss. And with that, this little gecko came across and touched my finger on the hand with its tongue. And these little geckos, they're only about this long, and normally they are so skittish. And just yesterday, there was a bee trapped in the house against the window. And I said, look, I want to help you. I said, just come on board my finger and I will carry you outside. And so I put my finger close to it and climbed on, and I walked out the house and it just flew away. So we are connected to all these things in a way that science cannot explain. But obviously, this is, we are communicating with something which goes back. And I remember years ago, a friend of mine, we'd had not a disagreement, but for some unknown reason, this friend just didn't want to be friends anymore. And I thought this was so sad because we'd been so close as friends. And I just said to God, dear God, please let me see this friend this morning. And anyway, I went, and anyway, he lived in a completely different part of Perth. And so I went to the local shopping centre, and well, it wasn't my local shopping centre, funnily enough, but a shopping centre. And anyway, I was sitting down having a cup of coffee, and what I'd said, oh dear, I forget what I've said.
That's okay.
So I prayed, please may I see this friend so we can try and sort out whatever the differences are and whatever. Anyway, so I just sat down for a coffee, and this friend walked in, and I said, what are you doing over here? So he says, I honestly don't know. He said, it's my sister's wedding tomorrow, and I woke up this morning and something told me to go to Karrinyup Shopping Centre. Which is amazing. So and we had an amazing bond, which unfortunately just wasn't interested in carrying on the friendship, but that's his problem,
Never
not mine.
mind. It was meant to be.
Yeah. But what we should do is, as I was mentioning about the baby in the cot, and people, they should just move the cot around so the child can sleep in the position it wants to, and maybe the constraints within the cot are so much that the child can't get to the place it really wants to sleep. So it might take 2 or 3 movements over a couple of days or nights to get the ideal position. So
do you have a special protection technique? Was it Rebecca was asking what protection technique, but I think everybody has their own special protection techniques depending on what LORE they're into.
Yeah. Well, I absolutely hate religions. And so does God, because I've asked God whether he likes religions or not, and he says he hates them as well. So anyway, and I don't want to offend anybody here, but that's the way it is. Anyway, so I just say, dear God, please protect me from anything that might be malevolent towards me. And this leads me into something else, which is really quite interesting. I bought this property that I've got on which I'm doing this forestry research back in 2001, and I bought it without actually walking on it. All I'd done was divine on a sketch just drawn in the sand away from the property to see if there were lots of underground streams, because this is what I was looking for. And anyway, so the first time I walked on it, I went up to the top and I looked down over the valley and I burst out crying. And I thought, what on earth is happening to me? 60 years old. And I just burst out crying. So anyway, I thought, well, I'll ask my divining rod. And I just thought, well, I wonder if, and then the guy from whom I bought the property came across, and he said to me, well, we're having a cup of tea outside my caravan that I lived in for 5 years. He said, you'll think I'm strange when I tell you this. And he gesticulated to where I'd burst out crying. He said, I would burst out crying. And I said, I believe you, Fred, because it's already happened to me. And then I had 2 other friends come up, or they were just people that I just met, over the few days. And so they came up to see what I was doing. And they both burst out crying in the same area. They came at different times. And but so that's 4 of us had this experience of crying. So I asked my divining rod whether somebody had died there, and it said yes. So I said, please give me an indication of male, and if it goes to the right, it's male, and if I say give me an indication of female, it goes to my left. And so it indicated it was a female. So I asked, how did she die? Did she die from murder? And it says no, which is to the left. Was it accident? No. Was it suicide? Yes. So then I determined her age and the year, which was 1897, and she was 22 years old, and she'd committed suicide, which you can fully understand, because in 1897, without air conditioning and just, the conditions must have been horrendous, because people were going to and from the gold fields during the gold rush at that period of time. So you can understand somebody being driven to it. So anyway, the words came into my head, and I just and I've done this hundreds of times, and I'll relate another story which is really fascinating. I just call upon the spirit guides of the deceased person to come and collect their spirit and guide them to God, or to you, God, so they can find eternal peace and happiness as you see fit. And they just go, and it's really amazing the way this happens. And I know for sure that the spirits do go, because there's one lady, she phoned up one day from a suburb in Perth, and she said, David, I've heard about you doing spiritual healing. She said, I've had priests here several times and other people who claim they can clear these spirits. And she said, I'm absolutely desperate. No, can you help me? So I said, okay, give me your address. So she gave me her address, and I looked it up on Google Earth. So I only use one divining rod, because when you go over an underground stream, I should have 2 divine rods here. If you go over an underground stream, the divine rods will either cross like that, or they'll go like that. And I say to experienced diviners, why is it like that? So if you go from one side, it'll go that way, and from the other side that way. So I just get rid of one of them. So I say, show me where the underground stream is, and it'll go that way. And that is the direction the water is flowing. So I can say, okay, I'd like you to point upstream, and it'll just instantly turn in the other direction, which is absolutely amazing. But when I'm working on Google Earth, you need a free hand. So I run my finger across the screen like this, and when I get to the appropriate place on the screen, the divining rod will turn like this. It's a bit difficult to show.
Oh, that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah,
because it really is hard to do the mapping on the Google Earth. To get the exact GPS location is really hard.
I can do 100. I can find the best place on 100,000 acres in 5 minutes. Best place for bore.
Someone said once, do I ever not find water? And I said no, because before you go out, you don't go out unless you check it all out first, so that you don't go out and not find it, because you've already checked it out before you go.
That's right.
So, yeah. But also with the streams, you've got the 3 levels. You've got first you hit the outside, then you hit the main flow, and then you've got the other flow on the other side. That, when I was first learning, that was really tricky to sort out. And one of the divining rods that the man that was teaching me had, I know I said this last week, was massive, great big wire, really heavy. But he used that to get the flow strength. So because it was so heavy, it'd go boof. You know, when the flow was really fast and deep, so that you're getting a good flow, the large one would just go boof. But gee, it was hard to manage. In the end, I put the rods down and went back to my pendulum, and I followed him around, and we did both at the one time. But in that experience, I found that the pendy was much more sensitive. I was picking up stuff the rods weren't. I don't know if it was just fluke or there was so much water around, but it was really interesting to have two going at once, to see how the accuracy was different.
Yeah.
Can you move underground channels with the rods?
Say that again.
Can you move the direction of flow with the rods of the water?
I'll tell you a fantastic story if I may in a moment. But I lose track of what I was going to say.
If you're playing around with underground water, it's a bit of a no-no because you're changing natural energy flow that can really cause some havoc later on. You're changing the geophysical or the electromagnetics. So you can do it, but it's pretty dangerous to do because you're changing natural energy flows. You can end up trapping water. You can end up having, creating a big hole that wasn't there before. I don't recommend it.
And does dowsing rods need to be a certain size or material?
This is interesting. When I got my property, I wanted a bore put down, so I divined where I wanted it, and it turned out to be a fantastic place. And I didn't realize just how fantastic it was until some time later, which I'll hopefully go on to in a moment. Anyway, the son of the person who had this business, the drilling business, he said, "Oh, trust Dad because he's been doing it for 50 years." So he has a container on his side with about 10 or 12 different divining rods. And he says, this one only reacts to this and this one only reacts to that and whatever. Whereas I just say, I only want to find an underground stream which has potable water and a decent flow rate that can be tapped into, etc., etc. And it'll totally disregard anything else. And it'll just go to the one. But now what I do on Google Earth, whether it's a 1 acre or 100 acres or 1,000 acres, I just look at Google Earth and I just say, show me the best place for a bore for potable water. And I just go across the screen and it'll point there, east and west. And I go up the screen, north and south. And so I know exactly where to go to. And then I plot the exact place.
Yeah.
What is really frustrating is so often the drilling contractors don't set the drill rig up exactly upright, or they strike what is called a floater in the ground. And so when the drill goes down, it gets pushed off a little bit. And I had this experience in the Darling Scarp here in Western Australia. And this guy from Zimbabwe phoned me up and he said, "Oh, David, it's a dry hole." So I said, "Look, wait till tomorrow and check it then." So he checks the next day and the hole had filled up to about 3 meters from the surface. So I said, "Look, hang a plumb bob down the hole and just see if it's upright." And it went down to the water at 3 meters, and it went from one side of the 4-inch casing to the other side of the 4-inch casing. So it was obviously off by, say, half a degree or something like that. Anyway, so I said, "I've got an idea which you might like." So he says, "I think I'm on the same wavelength as you. No, how about we drop some gelignite down and explode it at the depths of where I've identified where the water is flowing." So he knew somebody who was good with explosives, so they did this, and he called me up and he said, "Oh, David," he says, "the water just started gushing into the hole. It was just fantastic. Thanks very much."
Have you found, you can get copper rods, you can get your brass rods, you can just get fencing wire. I'll just cut some fencing wire. But I've found that, yes, copper is highly conductive, but there are other, in some cases, they can like splatter the aura. But as you say, it's all in the intention and your question. I find that it's best to keep everything really simple. The more simple, the less variance, anomalies, gray areas you'll get, because it's all in your question. Everything is in the question. If you've got your question succinct, that's the answers you'll receive. And the more simple, the less gray area. And with the different like tools, they're all the same thing. It's just an indication of your intuition on the outside of your physical body, so that you're seeing your intuition in real life as a tool. It's a visual tool, but your body can be used in the same way. Like, if I don't have a tool and I'm a bit sus on what's going around me energetically, I'll just use my body. I feel it's safer that way. No one's watching what you're doing. You can just do it without any interference, because no one's expecting you to rock your body frontwards.
I love that, Cath. One day I was walking down the paddock and I thought something, I must ask God that. And I was just holding this in my arm, hanging down rather like this. And all of a sudden my arm started rotating to the right, indicating yes to my question. So I said, no, this is just fantastic. And, it's often I just take my bunch of keys. I drive to the shops for argument's sake. And so I'm gluten intolerant. So I want to know if a particular food has got wheat in it or not. And so I can just, I used to use my keys, but now, and people often used to say to me, what are you doing? And I'd tell them, but now I just let my arm hang loose and I just look at something and it'll either go clockwise or anti-clockwise to say whether or not it's got gluten in it.
If a word of advice, when you start using your body, make sure when you're tuning in to say your yes and no. So I say rock forward for yes, rock backwards for no. If I'm just centered in the middle and I'm not rocking backwards or forwards, then I'm in search mode. I don't have a target addressed. I'm just there rocking. Make sure though, when you're saying your yes and no's, when you're using your body, to tell the energies not to push you too far backwards or forwards. I nearly ended up flat on my back one day because I wasn't succinct enough in explaining I don't want to go flat on my back or flat a face plant, So just be careful what you are saying and include not to flatten you either front ways or backwards. It happens. You need to be careful with that.
Can I ask a silly question? Going back to the energy of like underground water or a ley line, is it possible, because as we realize, sometimes homes have been built or buildings have been built over the top of those types of energy lines, and it can cause great chaos within the house. And sometimes it's not always possible to shift, away from that. And I have tried to diffuse the energy of a ley line that runs through the house. And I know, you be quiet.
Okay,
come on, this is fascinating.
So
I didn't get to. I did. I used crystals. Okay, first of all, I use crystals along the ley line to diffuse. I use rose quartz to try to soften the energy and absorb some of the energy, and then I use some other crystals to try to divert it around a little bit, just a bit. And according to the dowsing rods, that I was successful in doing that, and I shifted it by about a foot, I think. The energy, the actual energy. Now, I'm not talking underground water, but is it possible that you can do something like that?
If I'm allowed to answer this question, that is really interesting. Years ago, I was on the radio in Perth, and somebody phoned up and left a message for me telling me about another water diviner. And so I thought it'd be good to contact this guy. So I went along and saw him, and he taught me some interesting things. Trees, when they are growing over underground streams, trees that have a habit like this tend to bend over like this. And you'll see this with, and in my back garden in my city home, I had an acacia, and that was going that way from one side, and a macadamia tree going that way the other side. They're absolutely amazing. And there's an underground stream flowing right through there. So that is interesting. And the other thing that was this gentleman pointed out to me was that if you sleep above an underground stream, the chances are you'll get cancer. And I've been to lots of houses where, sorry, I'm not allowed to that. You'll get C. And anyway, so I've been to people, and I've identified particularly where underground streams cross, which is the places where you look for to put down the best bore, because you get a cocktail of the water flowing into underground streams. And one is coming normally from the northeast to the southwest, and not from the northwest to the southeast. And anyway, he showed me this, and if you put down some blue material on the ground or on the bedroom floor or whatever, the divining rod will not then react to the underground stream that's flowing there. So I had a science background, so you have something that's a sine wave, and so the blue must have a wave form which is 180 degrees out of sync with the energy that's coming from the underground stream, so it cancels it out. But
Wow.
yeah, so this is quite fascinating, and it seems to be any shape of blue. Here in Western Australia, a lot of women working in the ABC studios in Geelong in Brisbane were getting breast cancer. And anyway, they ended up moving the studios to somewhere else, and they demolished it. Anyway, what I discovered was that there were 3 underground streams flowing beneath the middle of it. And it was most unusual. The underground streams were forming a triangle right in the middle of this building. And I wrote to the government, I wrote to the ABC and whatever, never got a reply, because I'm terrified that this site is going to be redeveloped and people are going to be living there in high-rise buildings, and the incidence of cancer is going to be absolutely colossal.
I wonder if the vibratory rate of the blue counteracts the vibratory rate, like of water.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
So the waves, that's interesting. I wonder how that happened with the fires in Hawaii. I better be quiet. Okay, delete, carry on. Any more questions?
So what you're saying is it's possible to actually diffuse that energy if you're having to live over the top of it?
Yeah. Well, by putting blue on the floor, that is good.
Yeah.
But this is another interesting thing that I did.
So if it has like blue carpet or blue,
anything
doesn't
blue.
matter what material, anything blue.
No, anything
Maybe
blue.
that blue insulation stuff you could put down underneath the floorboards instead of putting it on top of the floorboards.
Yeah, because this is what you say about the water, because I feel that living over the top of an energy line or a ley line actually creates chronic fatigue.
Yep, me too.
Or an autoimmune disorder.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, well, just try it yourself. Find where there's an underground stream and have a blue towel or something like that and just lay it over it, and then just walk either side of the towel, and you'll see that the divining rod will indicate where the underground stream is, and then walk across the towel and the divining rod will not respond. It's amazing.
Well, I just want to find something to put on the ley line. I don't know if the blue will work, because it's like blue with water, blue.
Yeah, well, I'll have to check it out with ley lines.
Unless you visually put it over there, like not a physical thing, a visual
intention.
Yes.
The power of intention is incredible. It's just
I might try that later, because I've got one under mine as well. Michelle and I, we've got our beds in
So
the
the
wrong
color
position.
blue.
Yeah.
Color blue. Yes, Gene. Anything blue color, David said.
That's correct. But I'll tell you something else that you can try, which is absolutely fantastic. And this just sounds absolutely impossible, I know. But there's a lady friend of mine. She has chronic, I think it's called scoliosis of the spine, where the spine is badly curved from birth. Anyway, she heard about this American lady who could do healing. So this lady came out from America, and so Annalise invited me to go there and meet this woman. And anyway, in the course of conversation, the lady said to me, "What do you do?" So I explained what I was doing, and so I said, "No, living over underground streams is bad." So I can't remember where she lived, somewhere in Ohio, if I recall correctly. Anyway, so we looked it up on Google Earth, and so I said, "Look, you're living over 2 underground streams." So I said, "You won't believe this, but all we can do is give it a go." And anyway, with that, I just go on the Google Earth image where I put a line, I just go flick, 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 and I then divine to see if I've moved the underground stream. So I moved the one that was going from the northeast to the southwest, so I just moved it up that way, and then the one that was flowing the other direction, I moved that way. And anyway, when she got back to America, she sent an email saying, "Oh, this is amazing." She she said, "I got back home and the next door neighbor's underground room, what do you call basement, was flooded."
Oh, see?
So I now always say, look, if it's appropriate, God, please do this, or if it's not appropriate,
Flood the neighbor's backyard.
I'll have to try that. I had rocks. I had major rocks and everything, like all through the house, in specific locations, experimenting, and then used the rods to see where if I had been able to shift the energy of it or not. And there was rocks everywhere. Anyone walking in would have thought I was crazy, because there'd be a big pile of crystals, sitting in specific locations.
Right. Yeah.
Can you give us an example, David, of you using your pendulum or something to show the audience?
Yeah. Can you see these quite obviously?
Yes.
That's quite clear. Sometimes when I'm in front of a large audience, I use this one, but you can't use this outside because the wind catches it and blows it around. So I'm most comfortable with these. As I say, if you're going initially, because most people think of divining initially for looking for water, and if you go across and the divine rods go like that, and I covered this a little bit earlier, you think to yourself, well, which way is the water flowing? Because if you approach the underground stream from one direction, it'll go like that. But if you approach from the other direction, it'll go like that. So I now only ever use a single divining rod, and it'll point in the direction of flow. But what is so incredible is I can say, look, please point upstream in future, and it'll instantly turn around, and it will keep on pointing upstream every time I divine until such time as I ask it to revert to pointing downstream, which is amazing.
Do you have a specific question, Grizzy?
I just want to see his example for the audience to see.
Right. This is what I call my circle of elements. And
wow.
Okay, so I align that with north. So like Cath mentioned earlier, I just say show me north. So I just align it like that. So I can just say then to a person, I want to know, or the person says to me, I'd like to know what elements are missing from their diet. And anyway, this is really interesting because in Australia here, our soils are very deficient in boron. And I suggest anybody looks up on the internet the borax conspiracy, because the pharmaceutical companies in America got together and gave bribes to parliamentarians to pass laws that would prevent or that made anybody who sold borax, which is boron, had to put not to be taken or poison on it. And this is a most incredible element. It's really important for stopping us from getting arthritis. And anyway, a friend of mine, he had chronic arthritis long before I met him and his wife and children. And anyway, I nagged him and nagged him and nagged him. And because it said this not to be taken on the packaging, that he refused to take it. But it tastes awful. And I'll show you. I take it myself. One moment, please.
I use that to clean the drains.
Yeah, same. No wonder they get sick.
Oopsie. Yeah, that's the stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
Drano.
All right. Okay.
It's going to clean your pipes.
Oh, I bought the wrong one. This one's not open yet. One moment, please.
Any other questions there? I think
That's why
Cliff
I'm
was
going
asking a question about. There was a big question.
I'm back. It tastes absolutely revolting.
No, I bet it does.
I lick my finger and I stick it in.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh no! Please don't cark it on my show.
Yucky.
This is ginger. Mm. I normally spread it on my cereal in the morning, and you don't taste it then. But it's brilliant. Anyway, this friend, as I say, finally has a word with his specialist, and the specialist says, "Look, if it doesn't do you any good, it certainly won't do you any harm." So he started taking this, and most people need about a quarter of a teaspoon a day. And in 2 weeks, he was off all his terrible medication, for which every 3 months he was having blood tests and in constant pain. But people are so stupid. This guy, he's a nice guy, but he is so stupid in many ways. Once he got off the drugs, he stopped taking the borax. And I said, look, you've got to carry on. And of course, ultimately, the amount of boron in his diet went down, so he went back onto it. But, you know, it should be on our food on a daily basis. But
it's not. I run a Healy scan on, which is a frequency, and I run a scan on myself every morning, and every morning it comes up with different vital substances that are missing.
Right.
And arsenic is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Come up here.
Well, don't lick your finger and put it in there.
No.
Apple
About this, it changes every day, and it can be like L-theanine, it can be, you know, all those ones. I haven't had borax come up. I don't think that's a vital substance, but it's obviously mimicking something else, is it?
I don't know about mimicking anything else, but here in Australia, our soils are totally deficient, and the agriculture here is hydroponic.
Yeah.
It's the soil purely supplies support, and everything else.
I can back that up because I've been doing it daily, just out of curiosity, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
What deficiencies come, and it changes daily. So it's So and going with the animals, it made me wonder about the animals, because the animals are getting sick. And it seems like the processed feed that we're having to supplement them with is not doing the job. And so they're actually deficient in a heap of vital substances as well that's needed. So, yeah, interesting. But I don't know if I want to finger lick borax.
This is another fantastic product. It comes from Pakistan, the Himalayas, whatever, Himalayan salt. And it's got 84 trace elements in it.
Wow.
And the body is amazing. It'll get rid of what it doesn't want.
A mate of mine uses sulfur. He puts sulfur in honey.
Yes.
And kind of like the charcoal effect, you know, to get rid of all the poisons in your body. It's dangerous. Don't listen, everybody. Don't listen to us at the moment. David,
make this up. I suggest everybody makes this up for themselves, and they'll find out exactly what they want, what they need.
Now, David, can you show us some examples using your rods?
Yeah, so the gang can follow what you're doing. So, like, we start, we ground, we protect, we set our intention, and then we have our rods. So, David, ask your rods if I'm a four-legged dog or something like that, and show everyone how you do it.
Okay, it's already done. It's saying no. Show me yes. Show me no.
Okay, ask something else then. Am I over 60?
Oh well, no. It said yes, and then it went to no. So you must never ask a woman at her age. So you probably are, but you don't admit it.
Anything you like.
Oh, that's true. That is true. She doesn't do the sixes. Spot on.
Correct. I finished at 59. That's it for me.
I'll show you this book. It's absolutely fantastic. And I've used this for quite a few people. If I'm in a class, I just ask for volunteers. And anyway, on this particular occasion, this young lady with very black hair, I don't think she was Asian, but her hair was black as if she was Asian. Anyway, I said, look, I want to know what your problem is. Just in your mind, think, I would like to cure this or cure that. Anyway, I then just get my book out and I say, okay, her name was Crystal. So I said, I want to know if there's a plant in here which will remedy the problem that she is concerned about. Anyway, so we open up the page, and I can't remember for the life of me what it was, but it was a herb which brings back the color of your hair when you're starting to go gray. And anyway, and I can't remember for the life of me what page it was on and whatever, but anyway, I thought, well, I'll give this a go as well. And,
was it Herb Robert?
Was it which?
Herb Robert.
No, I don't know what it was called.
No way. Okay.
With the rods, there are different ways to hold them as well. Like some rods you hold up so that they're up this way, and they will cross up ways. That like if you're holding them this way, you need to be loose and tie your little finger around the bottom bits.
I don't know how you hold those enormous rods. It's crazy.
They're not that big. Like they're only about a foot.
How big mine is.
Yeah. No, that's why I only use them outside, because I don't want to poke anything.
No, but this is fantastic because they don't get caught in the wind very much. Yeah,
they're good.
And I even make one. Oh, this is amazing. This is an amazing story. In 2 years, 2009 and 2011, I was a finalist in the United Nations World Environment Day Awards. And anyway, they were being presented in Melbourne. And anyway, I went across and stayed with my sister and brother-in-law. But first of all, I stayed with a friend of mine who also lived. So I phoned up my sister the next morning and I said, where should we go today? So she says to me, go to Sarah's place. So she gave me Sarah's place. Now, I have no idea where Sarah lived other than an address. So we got into the car and I said to Richard, I said, look, I'll show you something amazing. And I was just drawn to do this because I had never done it before. But I just got in the car. We got in the car. I was not driving. And I just said, please guide us to Sarah's home. And it went, yes, like this. So it said, go, indicated left out of the gate. So a little way down the road, it said, go to the right. But right as we are at the junction. So I said, oh, God, you've got to give us a bit of warning. I said, now about 100 meters before the next intersection, I had to go flick, flick, flick right or flick, flick, flick left. So we can get in the appropriate line. So we backed off and then turned right. And anyway, it did this, as I'd requested. And it took us to my niece's house, right the way across Melbourne. And we just went through back streets. There was no traffic, no anything. And when we got there, Richard just said, I just cannot believe what I've seen, David, that
it's amazing. Like when you're mapping, you just follow what direction it goes, and you can just walk along with it. Yeah. And it'll be going. I'm going to get zapped shortly. If I get zapped, Merry Christmas, everybody. Thanks for coming on, David. I'll just tell you quickly.
Okay.
I'm about to get zapped, I think.
Right.
Can any of our watchers watch you do some? Is there any questions for everyone's got?
Yeah,
Anyone?
they want to see David demonstrate.
Okay. Any questions they would like answered?
Brian wants to know, will he find Bigfoot next week?
Oh,
If I find what next week?
If Brian will
Bigfoot.
find Bigfoot next week.
All right.
We're into the cryptids, big time.
Right. Yeah, I only do serious things. Yeah.
This is serious.
One of the things I do is companion plants, which is really interesting. So, with vegetables.
I've got a yes, Brian.
Yeah. I don't know how you can. I don't think you can use a pen. A divine rod is so much easier for this. This is fascinating.
That's that bloody borax.
Yeah, let me have another swig of my.
Yeah, Brian, I got a definite yes, you will.
Well, okay, the Earth's magnetic field is amazing, and just after the Second World War, a couple of American scientists working in Germany discovered a grid pattern within the Earth's magnetic field, and it's called the Curry grid, and it's about 2.2 meters by 2.2 meters. I imagine that as you get closer to the equator, it gets larger, and as you get closer to the poles, it gets smaller. But coincidentally, where I am on my farm here, it's about 2.2 meters, and where I teach in Nepal, it's about 2.2 meters as well. I've never actually checked out precisely what it is. Anyway, it's fascinating. Anyway, so I wondered what the significance of it is. And within these squares of 2.2 meters by 2.2 meters, which is oriented to the northwest and to the northeast, there's 500 energy lines running that way and 500 running that way. So within that small area, you get 250,000 intersection points, each with unique electromagnetic properties. And what I've discovered is that the seeds of trees are tuned into a specific point. So if I say I want to plant say a particular eucalyptus, it'll go along and then it'll point in a certain direction, which will be northeast. It's showing me here. And then as I progress in that direction, it'll then point either to the southeast or whatever. And if you plant the tree there, it will grow fantastically well. And so I just asked God to demonstrate this. So I say, show me 0%, and it goes to my left. Show me 100%, and it goes straight out in front of me. So imagine the tree is in its perfect position here. So I say, how well will it grow there? So it's saying 100%. As I back away or move in any direction, it goes down to 0. And this is amazing because when you plant trees with a tree planter, boom, 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 boom. I met this forester many years ago, and we went around plantations. I said, Charles, there's about 3% of the trees that are so much better than the others, and 3% that are underperforming or even died. And he said, if you can find out the reason for this, you'll be worth $1 million. Well, here I am. I'm worth $1 million. But nobody's interested because they refuse to believe these things. It's just so frustrating.
It'll happen. Do we want to see if Santa Claus is real?
Yes.
Is Santa Claus real? Yes. 100%. Look.
Yeah. That's what mine was going very enthusiastically about it as well. When it goes all the way around, it's saying not just yes, but yes.
Yes, huge yes.
We've got to have a real belief in this for the sake of the children. So, oh, excuse my coughing. But
bless you all.
If I can just quickly demonstrate something else with vegetables.
Just stop that. You need to stop that. You're making me cough.
Oh, sorry.
Yes,
I want to know what's your thoughts, David, on baking soda.
Wow.
What's your thoughts on baking soda?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that. But let me just quickly show you this because this is fascinating. In agriculture, everybody grows monocultures these days, but nature has symbiotic relationships between different plants. So I say, and I do this as I sit here, show me the best place or energy line on which to plant maize, corn. So it'll say there. And so it's aligning. So you wait till it aligns in a straight line, which is exactly northeast, southwest. Now, corn needs lots of nitrogen, and beans are legumes, and they put nitrogen into the ground. So I said, where should I plant beans, climbing beans, in order to improve the performance of the corn? So it says there, which is about 6 inches to the northwest side of the corn. So then I say, corn gets attacked by certain insects. So is there something that I can plant? Where should I plant it to keep these insects away? So it says, plant something there. So I then go through the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So I say ginger, and it says no. So I say garlic, and it says yes. So you plant garlic or onions, which is the same family, one side on the southeast side of the corn, and you plant the beans on the northwest. Now, it was really interesting because one of the children, because most of the children in Nepal are children of farmers, or their parents, grandparents are farmers. And he said, oh, but David, we plant the beans and the corn at different times. So I say, I imagine, and this is where your intuition comes into play. I said, I imagine you plant the corn first. So he said, that is right. So I said to him, how high should the corn be before we plant the beans? So I just raise my hand up like this. And when I get to the appropriate height, it says that. So the corn has started to grow already, and it carries on growing, and the beans grow up it. So you don't need to provide any support for it, which is absolutely amazing.
That's brilliant for companion planting.
Oh, this is absolutely fantastic. So what God tells me with the divining is that you have 4 different plots, or 5 different plots, because one has to be fallow. So you have one selection of plants growing in plot 1, and then the following year you have another selection. So you have 5 different areas. So one is plot 1 with one selection. Oh my goodness.
Do you want to get a drink of water? Oh yeah.
Hopefully that borax didn't do nothing to you.
Yeah. Exactly.
I haven't talked so much in years.
You have to have a little rest. Can we go back to Cliff's big question, Grizzy?
Which one?
There was a big one, about 3 lines.
I must have missed that one. He was asking about baking soda.
Yeah, no, this is
and another question was, what does David think about raised garden beds?
Right. Yeah. Well, baking soda, it says it's a good question, but I just don't know quite what reference to say. Let's just have a say. I just think the question, and it's saying yes, yes, yes. So is it beneficial for some plants? So which plants might it be beneficial for? A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D. It's suggesting a vegetable beginning with D, which I can't think of a vegetable beginning with D. A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D. E,
those
F, G.
daikons, like those radishes.
Okay. It's saying yes to that. So clever you.
I never heard of it. That's interesting.
They're yummy. They're big, long white ones, like a big, long radish, and you grate them. It's really, really nice.
I think they are Chinese radish, aren't they? Aren't they called Chinese radish?
Daikon, they call them.
Interesting you say that, because somebody had some ailment and it recommended they take that. Is that our time up?
Yeah, it sure is. We're on another channel broadcast. David, how does people get a hold of you?
I can give you my email address.
Okay.
With auria1069 @bigpond.com. And my Facebook page, which is easier, is just David, or facebook.com/David.Kennett, KENNETT.96.
Awesome. Yeah, so everybody check them out. And we wanted to say Merry Christmas to everybody, and hopefully everybody has a good Christmas. And thanks for all the fans watching the shows and stuff like that. And we really appreciate everything. And we will come back, I think, on Tuesday. I think Lala shows come back on Tuesday. But if you need anything, reach out to us, and we'll on our next show we'll do some pendulum and get that down pat. But from coast to coast, around the world, everybody have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much for letting me participate. Much
Absolutely,
appreciated.
David. Thank
Thanks
you,
for coming,
sir.
David.
Bye-bye.
Be
Happy
careful.
Christmas.